everyone. I'm Sonia Maroney, joined by my lovely co-host and better half, Jen Cameron. Welcome to our passion project and pseudo side hustle, where we ask the burning questions from some of the most fascinating leaders who are in the restaurant space. Good morning, Jen. We are excited about today's guest.
Yes, we are. Good morning, Sonia. So today we're actually going to be talking about self-ordering technology with none other than Grubbrr CEO Sam Zeitz. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been seeing Grubbrr a lot in the news, and Sonia and I are certainly excited to have you on today. We'd love to kind of lead off with a little bit of an icebreaker. It's early here on the West Coast, so we'd love to understand what your morning routine looks like.
Historically, my morning routine involved getting up and dropping the kids off at school, but now I have two in college and the third one can drive. So fortunately, I've picked up a little bit of time, so that's good. But when I get into the office, the first thing I do is I've got my list from the day before of tasks that need to get done. And I take the two items that I look least forward to, and I move them to first and second on my list. And I take the item that I look most forward to, and I save that for the end. And I learned that from a good friend of mine years ago. And it was basically get over the thing that you're trying to put off all day, because then you'll end up keep putting it off day after day after day. And make sure you get it done. And the thing you're looking most forward to, that's kind of like the cherry on top. That's the surprise, the dessert you get at the end of the day. And you finish the day on a high.
That's great. You know, my boss, Casey Jones, he actually says the same thing. He calls it eating your frog. So I'll have to let him know that you as well like to eat your frog first thing in the morning and save
Absolutely.
your cherry for later. So thanks for sharing that, Sam. So, as we're talking about QSRs, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are that they're facing today?
Clearly, labor is number one. Inflation, which translates into commodity prices, going up. Rents going up. So the problem is there's nothing you can do to control, commodity costs. There is a set market, and most restaurants don't want to have to downgrade in quality of food. So that you're set there, market's going to set the rent, and labor has become a huge challenge. I mean, it started with COVID when Joe Biden was elected president, the whole $15 an hour minimum wage. Now you have either pending or finalized legislation in California to bump that up significantly higher as it pertains specifically to restaurant owners that are affected there. And the Great Resignation. So those factors have really affected labor prices, and as a result, has affected inflationary wages. So what do you do when you either can't find labor or labor is too expensive? And what you end up doing is you're forced to look to technology. And in this case, self-ordering technology will solve, well, we tell people it'll solve half the problem, right? We can solve the front of the house. And we can talk later maybe about, back of the house type solutions that are emerging and coming. But we can solve the front of the house. And candidly, this is type of technology that should have been put in place years ago. But for the fact that typically restaurant owners were notorious laggards when it comes to technology, and labor was just so inexpensive and so available. Why invest in technology when you can throw cheap labor at the problem? Well, the issue is it's one, not accessible, and two, it's not cheap anymore. So it's now forcing everybody to catch up quickly to be able to solve that issue.
Yeah, certainly. We hear that a lot in talking to restaurants every single day. So one of the companies that you've been partnering with, BurgerFi, who's kind of a thought leader in the space. Tell us a little bit about your partnership there and maybe what they were trying to solve for when they piloted.
Yeah, look, we love brands that are progressive, and even through COVID, you're seeing that the brands that invested in this type of technology, we're the real winners. And BurgerFi is at the forefront. They've got a very progressive CTO who saw the value, and we met with them and put together a pilot. And when they got the results for the pilot, they were just so overwhelming. CFOs love numbers. And when the CFO started to look at the numbers, he was like, all right, how quick can we roll this? How quick can we roll this? They're a brand that really values the customer experience. How can they improve that customer experience? And they're no different than every other, chain that's suffering from, labor, being able to find, enough labor. I mean, restaurant chains around the country are having to limit or close their doors because they just don't have the labor. They have the demand from the clients, which is great. They just can't service it. So what we were able to do is we ran an initial pilot of 4 locations, and we didn't go completely cashierless. What we did is they had 3 cashier positions with 3 POS. We took out 2 of those and we replaced them with kiosks. And as a result, about 80% or more of the clients ended up going to the kiosk and ordering there. Great, that freed up some labor, improved the customer experience because the order's always right. Why is the order always right? Well, you're putting it in. How many times have you gone to the cashier and said, oh, yeah, I'd like the cheeseburger with extra pickles, no ketchup. And they're like, got it, extra ketchup, no pickles. And you're like, no, I said the opposite. And what happens is that burger gets made, you look at it, it's wrong. So you're upset because now you have to wait for them to make another burger. Meanwhile, the restaurant manager or owner's upset because he just took a perfectly good hamburger and threw it in the garbage. All that can be eliminated. So initially, we solved for improving the customer experience and being able to shift labor. But what we were really looking to do was see how much can we increase your average ticket. Because at a burger joint, you can always train somebody to say, hey, would you like fries with that? Mm-hmm. Well, what if you're ordering a salad? Are you going to order fries? Probably not. Would you take a fruit cup or a healthy drink? Possibly. So starting to apply logic to mirror the upsell to the item that you're ordering, no different than when you go on Amazon and you select an item, all of a sudden there's a bunch of recommendations on things you might not have been looking for that really resonate with you. Or you go on Netflix and they suggest shows and you're like, hey, wow, I actually, that's appealing. I'll watch that. It's the same thing. So that allowed us to help them increase their average ticket. Also, when people are buying with their, when they're dealing with a kiosk, they're buying with their eyes as opposed to reading a menu. So if you read a menu and it says hamburger, hot dog, chili, fries, great. When I start to show you high resolution pictures with graphics and maybe they're animated and there's a Coca-Cola and the bubbles are bubbling up, the inclination to order that item goes up. So we've seen, in BurgerFi's case, it was over an 18.5% increase in average ticket. That's 18.5% more revenue for those locations. And typically, the upsell items are your higher margin items. So, that translates to real bottom line income to the restaurant. So yes, it solves labor and provides a better customer experience, but it drives more revenue. And the increase in revenue in itself, if I told any restaurant CFO I could increase their average ticket by 2%, they'd be like, where do I sign? Here's an example, 18.5% plus.
That's amazing. And I know, I'm talking about wanting to see results, especially as we talk about C-level executives. So, what lessons were learned and, what surprised you the most of the data that you guys uncovered?
I'll tell you, one of the more surprising things was the statistics on tipping. So what we actually learned in it, and this data actually went to the second decimal point, the percentage that people would tip to the second decimal point was identical at the kiosk versus the cashier. Now, because the average ticket was 18.5% higher, the tip pool was 18.5% higher. Then you take into account that there was 2 less employees, so the amount of tips were larger and it was split among less people. So the overall tips to those employees increased dramatically. So all of a sudden, you've got some really happy employees because they're making significantly more than they were making before.
That's pretty neat. I wouldn't have expected that. So
yeah, that was a nice one. Over 50% of the consumers at the kiosk also elected to take an upsell. So that's another, think about that. It's a pretty powerful statement. Over half the people who used it selected the upsell, which obviously went directly to increase the average ticket.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing. So when we're talking to restaurants kind of day to day, what should these brands take into account when they're trying to leverage a technology like this, or what should they take into consideration when they're looking to pilot?
Well, there's a lot, but first, the small businesses, sometimes they're like, oh yeah, let's try it, but then they're not putting in the work on the front end. So you want to set any pilot or any launch up for success. So the first thing you need to do is you need to bring in all the stakeholders. What we see that delays a lot of pilots is the fact that we'll start off maybe with the tech side of the staff. And the tech side of the staff will be great and everything will technically work. And either we'll launch or the CMO will then look at it and go, whoa, wait a second. Let's talk about the client journey. Let's talk about which graphics we have here. Why are you using this graphic? The tech people are like, it works, right? So there's a lot to what is our brand, our image, what videos are we putting in it? What's the client journey for upsells look like? So putting all those things and getting all the stakeholders from the beginning on the same page of what this should look like, because we've done these where we start with one group and they say build it this way, and then the CFO says no, make this change, and the CMO says make this change, and then the president comes in and says make this change, and then the CEO comes in and goes no, I want it this way, and we're like, that's exactly the way it was at the beginning, and we've just gone full circle. So you need to have all the stakeholders involved so that everybody has buy-in, and also everybody knows what will success look like. Right? What are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to solve for labor? Are we trying to solve for increased revenue? What are the pain points that we have, and can we solve for this? What type of systems do we currently operate that need to be integrated with this? Do we want it integrated with our POS system? Do we have an NCR? Do we have Oracle? Do we have PAR? Do we have loyalty programs, and how do we look at that journey, and do we integrate those loyalty programs? So there's a lot of different components, and fortunately we are integrated with every major POS company. We are integrated with every major loyalty company. We have been through all these. So our project managers will sit there and say, no, this is the proper way, and let's make sure we have all the stakeholders. Let's think about all these now, as opposed to let's put it up, launch it, and then all of a sudden have all these questions.
So you mentioned, thinking about the customer journey is definitely something top of mind. And I think the next thing, is the design. And so Jen and I have been covering the rise and popularity of next gen stores with brands like Dunkin' Donuts. And so, what should QSRs consider as they begin to design their next gen format, especially with mobile ordering, third-party app providers like DoorDash and Uber Eats? That's really led to the redesign of drive-through experience. So, how do you think kiosks and other self-ordering technology will impact the design inside the store?
Yeah, you're going to see complete redesigns of stores, no different than what you saw in retail when Apple entered the retail environment, right? When you go into an Apple store, that looks a lot different than just about any other retail store you had been in before they came along. That same disruptive experience is what's going to happen. There's no need to to have that counter there. Look, when we used to go to the airport, right? We used to stand in this long line to see the ticketing agent, who was not a happy person, probably because of the long line never went away. But what's that experience now when we go to the airport, right? You've got a QR code on your smartphone, and you walk right up, or you go to a bank of 40 kiosks that have no wait, and you have one person who's walking around, who's acting as that kiosk concierge, who's, oh, the paper's out, let me replace the paper. Oh, something's, wrong over here, or I have a question. They can help that person. At the same time, when you do that, you can have that person walking around with free samples of a new item that they want to try. Hey, we've got this new dessert. Would you like to try this? We've got this new smoothie. Would you like to try this? So you now take that customer, what was a cashier, you take them from behind a counter, and you now have them interacting with the clients, which is providing a far superior client interaction and experience. And candidly, you don't need as much labor. So what's that person being repurposed to do? Interacting with the client, maybe cleaning up, maybe delivering orders, whatever that case is. So yeah, you will see that. I also think you're going to start to see smaller footprint on stores. They're going to start to shrink because they've got a lot of revenue that's being generated outside of the four walls of that store. You mentioned the third-party deliveries, or even if they're company websites and deliveries, or pickups where they come in and they can pick up in the locations. We've worked with locations on actually adding food lockers as well, so they can go and pick up instead of going and grabbing items and grabbing the wrong items. So there's a lot of technology that can be implemented there to even improve that process for the carry out orders or the call ahead orders.
Great. Yeah, and shifting gears a little bit, but you had alluded a couple of questions ago about customer experience and loyalty. So what kind of data can you gather at the point of transaction? Demographic data, anything like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, when somebody opts in to a loyalty program, they're opting into allowing the restaurant to collect that data. So what are you getting? You're getting line item data, right? So you're getting the most valuable data. I know that you might be a vegetarian, and now I can hit you with offers that resonate with you and start telling you why you need to buy the triple pound hamburger that's not going to resonate with you. I can present you with offers that are customized to your buying habits. I can marry that data with, I could take that and figure out, are you local? You're in my area. Great. I see you come in once a week. How can I get you to come in twice a week? Or I see you come in for lunch every day, but how do I get you to come back for dinner? So that, once you have that client data, there's a lot you can do to customize that approach. No different than the example we used a minute ago with Amazon and Netflix. They have data. They're providing you a better client experience. Additionally, the client experience part of it is, I log in, I'm a return client, I'm immediately presented with my 5 last orders. Well, what if I'm the guy who likes to highly customize my sandwich? So instead of having to go in each time and I order the same thing, there's that hamburger I've made with 13 alterations to it, and all I have to do is just hit the button and my order's in, as opposed to making all those selections again. So the opportunity to improve the client's experience, especially for repeat clients, is significant as well.
Yeah, and speaking of improving, the customer's experience, a hot topic that Jen and I have been discussing lately is, biometrics, and, understanding that returning bad actor or thief, or, understanding the loyal customer and having that frictionless ordering experience. So, what are your thoughts on collecting biometric data? Do you find it to be invasive, or is it something that can, help us better understand the customer experience?
It's actually technology that we put together a few years ago. We don't really have it on in too many merchants, if at any, candidly at this point. In China, it's very prevalent, but their privacy concerns in China are a little different than they are in the US. So, it's something that if you have the clients opt into, Absolutely, it can work and it can speed up. So the use cases there are I just walk up and it's like, "Hi Sam, welcome back. Would you like your usual?" So here I could just walk into the restaurant and then I'm presented with my last 3 orders and I just hit a button and I could move along. So the convenience is very good. Where it starts to rub some people potentially the wrong way. I don't know if you remember the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise. I mean, it was probably a number of years ago, but I mean that all exists today, right? We can do all of that can be very easily accomplished, but some people might not necessarily. I don't know if people are ready for everything that we can do today, but we definitely can do it. And you're right, there's a lot that can be done even with, not that it's a big issue today, but bad actors maybe with stolen credit cards. Well, great, you've got that and you can ultimately create a negative database and eliminate that, or you can capture that data and say, here you go, we've got a picture of the person who was the bad operator on this particular credit card transaction. These aren't issues today. They could become issues, probably, not necessarily needed for the biometric or facial recognition today, but it depends where the states go with it. States like California probably would have a huge issue with that.
Absolutely. Well, you had such a great answer opening up about your morning routine. We'd love to close with another personal kind of question, but what is the most important lesson that you've learned throughout your career?
The most important lesson is to surround yourself with the absolute best talent you can find. You can't, no matter how good or how smart or how much energy you have, you are one person. So the team that you can build around you is clearly the most important thing that you can do in any organization of any size. And you'll also find that there's something that you do that creates a lot of value. And the more that you can spend your time doing that, and you can have others take on the tasks that you might be okay at, but that might be what their sweet spot is, it's better for the organization and for you as an individual as well.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us, Sam, and taking a deeper dive into restaurant technology. That's it for today's episode. You have your hosts, Sonia Maroney and Jen Cameron. See you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sam. Bye.